Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Lori and I for another digital content marketing webinar mini series. Today is our sixth one. Lori, it's been quite a journey so far, huh?
It's been fun. Lots of good topics. We're getting really good feedback, which is great. So thank you everyone for attending. Again, we're happy to share as much information as we can to help you continue to move your business forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining. Today is really focused on paid advertising basics. So as you can see from our agenda here today, the things we'll be covering are surrounding paid advertising and what it is, why paid advertising is an important part of your marketing strategy, paid advertising best practices, and then we're certainly going to open it up for some Q&A at the end. So without any further ado, Lori, let's dive right into what is paid advertising.
Sure. I mean, the simple answer is that a company is paying for exposure on either another website or a search engine platform or a social media platform. And at the end of the day, there's a number of different ways that you can pay for that exposure, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit later. Pay per click allows for text ads. So that's simply the text with a link that goes back to whatever it is that you want to do. Or there's visual ads that are either images or videos. And there's a number of different ways that you can create these ads. We're going to talk all about this throughout the presentation today. Two things I want to point out. So Google AdWords helps your business find new customers. So people are typing in whatever their challenge is into Google, they're paying, and then you're showing up as a paid solution, as an opportunity for you to get your message in front of a new audience. Social media ads are helping customers find your business. So people are not necessarily out searching, but that information is getting fed to someone that you've identified as a potential new client for you.
Awesome. And as we get moving along here, we did want to kind of start from the beginning actually and go over some paid advertising jargon. So a few of these in particular, we're going to dive much deeper into, but we wanted to give kind of a high level explanation on, as you're either beginning your paid advertising adventure or perhaps you've already begun, really when you're reviewing your analytics, these are going to be a lot of the top words that you're going to see often. So impressions, how often an ad appears on a user's screen, clicks, that's ultimately the engagement with those ads. Your cost per click, also known as CPC, this is ultimately the price you pay for each click on your pay per click marketing campaigns, which is really important and is a statistic that you want to definitely make sure you're evaluating. CTR stands for click-through rate. This is the number of clicks advertisers receive on their ads per the number of impressions, which then ultimately leads us to the big dog here, conversions. And this is going to be really kind of the main priority of any digital paid advertising that you're doing is to try and execute on conversions. And this is an action that is counted when a user interacts with your ad and then ultimately takes the action that you defined, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about what those types of actions might be. But it's really important that you define what that action is, and then you're evaluating how many conversions come through with that. Cost per conversion or cost per acquisition, CPA, this is how much it costs to obtain that actual user. And then lastly here, conversion rates. So ultimately that percentage of people who clicked on an ad and then completed that action, purchase, or conversion. So this comes to you as a percentage. And the higher that percentage, as you can imagine, the better conversion rate that you have as well.
Thanks, Will. We're going to go deeper into just a couple of these to help further understand the specific language around your paid advertising campaigns. So first, we're going to talk about impressions. And as Will said, this is the content that's delivered to someone's feed. So I always like to refer to impressions as eyeballs. How many people actually saw the content? They didn't take action on it. They didn't click on it. They didn't engage with it. They simply saw it. So they scrolled through it or or maybe they saw your ad in the search engine result. So it's definitely just looking at eyeballs. And some of the ways to look at impressions are what channels someone was looking at. So was it on Google or Facebook or Bing? Or what was the device? And it's good to know this type of information so that you can decide what types of ads to display. For example, the image on the right shows that the majority of the impressions for this specific ad were taking place on desktop computers. So likely you're going to want to use something more visual versus on a mobile device or a tablet where you might want to use something more like text ads. The next one we're going to dive into a little bit here is CPC, which is cost per click. And this is ultimately the price that you are paying every time someone clicks on your ad. So one of the beautiful things that I really like about paid advertising is that the impressions are free. You're not paying, well, in some scenarios you can be. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But typically you're not paying for someone simply to see your advertisement. You're only paying when some sort of action or interaction is taking place. And the way that dollar amount or the price per click or that cost per click is determined varies based on the platform that you are working on. So for example, you might be, let's see, like Google AdWords, there's a number of variables that determine the price per click. One is how competitive is the space that you're in, so how many other people are bidding for that positioning. And two, they're also looking at the quality of the ad itself. So even if you want to say, I want my ad to be in #1 position on Google, but you have a very poorly written advertisement and it's not performing well, Google actually might just remove your ad overall because, again, they're trying to make sure they're providing the best results regardless if it's paid or organic. So you want to look at the quality of the ad, but also how much you're willing to pay. So it's an interesting formula. The average cost per click in AdWords across all industries is about $2.30. But something to consider is that doing display ads versus search ads. Display ads, the average cost is around 5 cents actually.
Yeah, for sure. And you talked about quality, quality ads, which really plays a big factor when we're discussing click-through rate. And as we had kind of previously discussed, it's ultimately the percent of people who view your ad, so an impression, and then go on to actually click on that ad. And achieving a high click-through rate is really essential to pay-per-click success. So a good way to think about it is, a better click-through rate is ultimately going to increase your ad's quality. Search engines in particular, they offer pricing discounts for ads that offer high relevance and make those users happy. So a high click-through rates lead to higher quality scores, and high quality scores allow you to improve and or maintain ad position for lower costs. So the higher quality ad that you have, the better click-through rate, the better opportunity you have to maintain a really great position in compared to your competitors' ads. So one thing you might be asking yourself is, what is a good click-through rate? And ultimately, it depends. Your click-through rate is going to vary from campaign to campaign, and it could even actually vary from keyword to keyword as well. So while you want a high click-through rate, there really is no magic number. This is going to vary by industry, and your expected click-through rate is going to depend on your ad's position among a variety of other factors.
Yeah, there's always going to be a lot of variables, and I'd say in marketing, the answer, it depends, is a common answer.
Right.
Depends on, a number of factors and, the ad, the industry, the level of competition. So it's really good to look at how your ads are performing in alignment with your industry.
And the last one to kind of round out our jargon here is cost per conversion or cost per acquisition, CPA. And this really represents how much it costs to obtain a conversion. So, the kind of the formula to think about here is a cost per conversion equals the total cost of generating traffic, divided by that total number of conversions. So this is, again, another important analytic, because you want to know how to manage your budget and then decide the best ways to continue to advertise. So by increasing your conversion rate, you will ultimately lower your cost per conversion, and that's the ideal, and that takes time. And so it's really important to remain consistent in implementing and testing, in order to reach that ideal cost per conversion, in comparison to the ad spend that you're willing to use.
Sure. So, for example, let's say you spent $1,000 on ads and you generated 5 new clients from that investment. So, your cost per conversion would be $200 per new client. And it's really good to keep tabs on that per channel. So then maybe there's a different channel and the cost per conversion is around $500 per new client. Well, you have to decide what is the value of getting that new client, and should you just invest more dollars in the channel that has a lower cost per conversion, or are you satisfied with the quality of leads that you're getting from the different channels? So again, really good to constantly monitor some of these data points to make sure that you are making intelligent decisions on how to continue to move forward with your advertising spend.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll just piggyback off that. It is incredibly important to continue to evaluate and monitor for sure.
Yep. So, well, let's talk about why advertising is important in your overall marketing strategy. So why would you use paid advertising, specifically looking at Google and Bing? Well, obviously, search engines are where a lot of people are spending time. They go there to find solutions to the problems that they have. And as we talked about a little earlier, specifically on the search engines, you're only paying when people actually take action. They click on the link. So if no one is clicking on your links, it's free exposure. So I think it's amazing to be investing in these channels, because if it's a well-crafted ad with a strong landing page, you're going to generate new business opportunities from this. So there's definitely a number of ways to leverage Google with regards to display ads. So affinity and custom affinity ads reach users based on what they're passionate about and their habits and interests. So these are learned behaviors from from Google. If you're using Google, they learn. And we can target ads based on your behaviors. Demographics are reaching users based on just long-term life facts, these data points that we have. Specific life events, you can reach users based on important milestones. Custom intent or in market is allowing you to reach users based on their recent purchase activities. Remarketing allows you to re-engage someone. I'm a big fan of remarketing because I think it's very low cost per acquisition. Basically, if someone visits your site and they do not perform, or they do a performer specific task, you can put an ad in front of them, encouraging to take that next step. Customer match is allowing you to reach your existing customers based on what's in your CRM. And similar audience, this is another one I'm a big fan of, is identifying the various characteristics of your current audience, and then you upload that customer base, and you can identify others that match or have very similar characteristics as well, and put your ads in front of that. So you can reach with Google, it goes beyond just the Google search engine itself. Your ads can be, on YouTube videos. I'm sure we've all seen the pre-roll or end of YouTube video ads that take place. If you're a Gmail user, you've likely seen ads in there as well. And actually, Google has relationships with a number of other websites, and I'm sure we've all seen this. So your ad isn't just going on the Google search engine result page. They have a fairly extensive network that they can push your advertisement to beyond just the search engine.
And one thing I would just add to that, I'm sure people are seeing Bing there, and they're probably asking
Oh, sure.
themselves, why the heck would I advertise on Bing? But I think it's important to consider that a lot of people actually still are using, Microsoft, and they're using Bing search engines. And if you are not advertising on Bing as well as on Google, then that's just, let's call it even 10% of the market. That's 10% of the audience, potential audience that you're just eliminating right away. So a best practice for us is certainly to make sure, you're executing on both search engines.
Yeah, and actually the cost per click is typically lower on Bing because there's lower level of competition. Granted, there's lower volume of audience that is using that channel, but it's still a platform that is very valid to consider advertising on.
For sure. So why would you implement Facebook ads in your marketing strategy? Well, the first point here is probably kind of a no-brainer, but Facebook is the largest social media platform on the planet. And, as we talk about Facebook and then Google and LinkedIn as well, this is really going to be a great platform to reach those for great platform for those B2C advertisers. So, these, and again, when it comes to Google and Facebook, the biggest difference from search advertising, which is based on what the user is searching, Facebook and social media is based on interest and behavior and their demographics prior to engagement. So it's a different type of advertising that you're utilizing in a different type of strategy. So what do we mean by that? When you think of interest in particular, let's say someone likes the Milwaukee Bucks, right? That's something that you already know about them. That's something that the platform already knows about them that you can use to your benefit. Same with behavior, right? A user has recently engaged or purchased a product with a Facebook ad recently, right? That's going to make them much more likely to interact with your advertisement as well. Demographics, a very important piece here that is different than search engines is you can prioritize, sex, whether it's male or female. You can get more defined when it comes to age. Hey, I want to target 25 to 35-year-olds, whether someone is single, someone is married. And then also a big part of that is the location, right? A lot of this is information that we make public through our profiles that advertisers can then go on to use to their benefit.
Yeah, basically anything that you're doing on Facebook and any social media channel for that matter, any type of information you're communicating to them can be used then to filter and then put ads in front of you strategically.
Mm-hmm. And so what are those types of ads specifically on Facebook? Well, as Lori said, Google has a lot of great resources. Facebook also owns Instagram. So you get to decide, do I want to display my ads on Facebook? On Instagram, do I want these ads to show up in someone's news feed? Or they also, as you have probably noticed when you're on Facebook, especially on a desktop, they have advertisements on the right-hand column as well. And then the last really component there to that is also story ads. When people are putting stories on their Facebook profiles, you can advertise that way as well. So what type of formats, very particular here, single image, single video, or the carousel as well, which is kind of a combination of images and videos. And then as we go to boosting, we would recommend allocating anywhere between 5 to 10% of your overall Facebook ads spend for boosting. I think this is where a lot of people kind of take that first step into some sort of advertising on social media is through boost. And we definitely encourage that because it ensures your organic posts are reaching your current followers, and as well as your followers, it's also reaching individuals that have similar interests to your followers. So, we definitely continue to encourage, the boosting component to a certain percentage of
Yeah,
that allocated ad spend.
yeah, and I think it's important to communicate that boosting is different than creating targeted ads. So oftentimes when people are managing their Facebook pages on their own and they see the option to boost the post or just create an ad, um, it's usually within that page, and there's a lot of limits as to how you can get your message out there further. Facebook has a whole separate ads manager program, that's where you can get really detailed with regards to the segmentation that you talked about earlier, Will. There's a lot of variables in there, but that's where you're going to actually be more strategic on who your ad gets in front of. We do recommend boosting. Everyone that we manage Facebook pages for, we have a dedicated budget where we're boosting a percentage of their posts. Some clients, we actually boost every post. Other clients, we look at the performance of the organic content and which ones had the most engagement, and then we put a little boost behind that to push it a little bit further.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just a couple of pointers here to really round out, Facebook. Video engagement rates are proven to be much higher than images, so just something to keep in mind. And they actually have a tool. Their slideshow ad builder is a tool that Facebook provides that allows advertisers to actually provide images and create an ad that kind of has the effect of a video. So that's the slideshow ad builder from Facebook. Certainly something to look into. And then lastly here, if you're running on kind of a limited budget, it's very important that you are targeting a very specific audience with a wide geography, or you're targeting an audience, with broad interests, but you have a very limited geography. So those are kind of those two points we really kind of want to emphasize.
Yeah, you definitely want to be strategic about your dollars. Speaking of that, I don't think we covered how you can actually select how you're being charged for your ads. Um, there's a couple different ways. You can be charged by the platform by an impression. So that's when someone sees your ad. You can be charged when someone clicks on it, which we talked about that click cost per click. You can be charged when someone is engaging with your ad. So that goes beyond the click. You can usually have some additional call to action or some sort of commenting or taking that next step with your ad. Or Facebook also has a lead gen form, and then you can be charged simply when someone is filling out that lead form. So what is the best solution? It really is going to depend on what your goals are, and all of those are going to have different values associated with them. When we're looking at LinkedIn, this is definitely the preferred platform from a B2B audience. It's definitely a place, it functions very similar to Facebook ads, where you can target based on interests. Or, if you think about all that information that you've plugged into LinkedIn about your job, the company you work for, the title that you have listed in your profile, some of those keywords in your profile, and even some of the pages that you've connected with, you can get very strategic and target individuals based on that information. So very valuable in that instance. Same process with regards to how you can be charged for the ads, by impressions or by clicks or by actions. And they also have a combination of options with regards to static image. They have text ads on LinkedIn, and you can also do video and kind of the carousel options as well. Some specific tips to share. Most valuable or highest conversion opportunities relate to white papers, ebooks, some sort of calculators. You're going to get a higher opportunity to convert there. Lead generation formats definitely perform better when the gated offer has value. And so when we talk about value, that's something that someone's willing to pay for. I know we've talked about this in a couple of other ways, but instead of them paying money for this valuable piece, they're giving you their contact information.
Awesome. So let's just go through some best practices here. As you can imagine, setting goals, right? So before you start spending any money on paid advertising, you first really need to make sure you take the time to consider what your goals are. Because as we've discussed, conversions can be evaluated in a number of different ways. Is it ultimately to generate leads? Are you trying to just expand your business awareness, your brand awareness, your business awareness as well there? Or do you really want to just be selling products, from an e-commerce website as well? So, once you have highlighted those goals, then you're able to really kind of take the next steps to figure out how much you're willing to actually pay for certain actions. An example of this would be, let's say us at Keystone Click. So we're a business that provides website design. And we want other businesses, and our advertising goal is to get people to fill out a form or to call us to find out how our business can help them. What is our really kind of step one is to determine how much money we're willing to spend in pay-per-click advertising in order to get that phone call or to get that form filled out, right? So we evaluate that at the beginning, and then it's all about continuing to test and realign, from there on out. But it's really important to start by setting those goals.
Yep, I'm always a fan of start with the end in mind. Know what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then kind of work backwards from that to build the plan and make sure that they're realistic, and that you've got all the milestones in place to do what you need to do to achieve the goals at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And that leads us into something that I'm sure we hear all the time, especially on the digital side of things, keywords. It's just as important in your advertising, your digital advertising, as it is, from on the content on your website, and the newsletters that you write. A resource, especially from Google, that's really, really awesome is the Google Keyword Planner. So this is going to be something that Google actually provides you with the right keywords that are going to help you get your ad in front of the right customers. That Google Keyword Planner searches for words or phrases related to your products and services. So this research tool is going to help you find keywords that are the most relevant ultimately for your business. One thing, again, to consider is your competition, right? Just like in anything else, competition research. So what keywords are your competitors appearing for? One thing you can do actually is to do an initial search and evaluate the competitors who show up that are running ads for that search, right? So what we would recommend is you actually scroll down to the bottom of the search results to see the suggestions of what Google thinks are related terms. And you continue to kind of click on those related terms, and you repeat this process for suggested terms to see which competitors also continue to reappear. That's a good way to see what types of keywords and key phrases your competitors are showing up for. Research keywords, right? So the keyword research tool here is going to give you insight into how often certain words are researched and how those searches have changed over time. So this is going to help you narrow your keyword lists down to the ones that you really want. Bid estimations. So the Google Keyword Planner is going to actually provide you with suggested bid estimates, something that could become very vital as you're starting out and you're trying to say, hey, what should that ad spend be? And this is ultimately going to determine your advertising budget. And then lastly here, plan, right? So once you have found those keywords that you like, you can add them to an advertising plan through the Google Keyword Planner. You can save that plan for future reference, or you can share it with your team as well. And when you're ready, this is going to be the kind of the great next step to finalize and then ultimately launch those campaigns.
All good insights. Lots of information that you shared there, Will.
A lot of information.
There's a lot of information, yeah. And in addition to the Google keyword tool, there's a number of other tools that are available online, and you can simply go to Google and type in like keyword research, keyword tools, keyword planners, and you'll get a lot of insight, not only for your company in your industry, but as you spoke about your competitors, and it's extremely important to really understand what your competitors are using from a messaging language, and what specific words that they're paying for, how much they're paying for it, how long they've been buying some of those words. And it's good to, again, have a plan. Don't just jump into the water without knowing, are there sharks in the water below you? You need to do the research to be effective, especially if you're investing dollars. You want to make sure you're spending them on the right words.
For sure.
And with any ads you're creating, whether they're social media ads, Google ads, whatever it is, the goal is to drive them to a very specific page. The last thing you want to do is take them to the homepage of your website. So here's some best practices that we're going to dive through real quickly with regards to the landing page. One of the biggest mistakes that I see is you have an ad, you've done all your research, you have an amazing, well-crafted ad, great imagery, great text, but then you take them to a page that has absolutely nothing to do or does not use the same message. So you want to make sure there's cohesive language in the ad or visual in the ad that then connects to that page, because the last thing you want them to do is click on your ad and go, oh, this doesn't look right, and then they leave. So then you just paid for someone to do nothing. So very important that the landing page matches the messaging in your ad.
Yeah, another way to just, it matches their expectations, right? So, they saw an ad, they're going to expect to see that same information, relevant information, when they click on it and ultimately get to a landing page. So just remember that, the landing page needs to match their expectations.
Mm-hmm. You want to keep the call to action above the fold. Above the fold means they do not need to scroll down for them to be able to take action. Directional cues to direct the eye means you need to make it very easy for them to know what the flow is of the information that you want them to see. You don't want it to be very scattered and discombobulated, because it's going to be confusing to them. It has to be very clear what it is you want them to do and where to look on that page. Make sure that you are showing exactly what that deliverable is, whether it's a service or a product, and how it's used. One of the things that is important, and again, an error that I see oftentimes on landing pages, is that you have it set up like your actual website. You want to remove any other navigation items and make it very clear and obvious what that specific action is you want them to take. So if you want them to fill out the form, that's it. Don't have any other navigation on your site, and make it very easy for them to just simply fill out that form. Authentic proof can come in the form of testimonials. So that can just be text, that can be a video, that could be maybe logos of other companies that are using your service or have purchased your product. That could be logos of associations that you've been part of. That could be awards or certifications that you've received. You need to have some sort of proof that says you are indeed an expert and other people have confirmed this. Your copy has to be very clear and right to the point. The information has to move fast, because you want them to move fast in that information. And make sure it's designed for the right device. We talked about this early on when looking at impressions, that, what percentage of the people are on mobile devices versus desktop devices. I'm speaking too fast here. I've had way too much coffee today. So you want to make sure that the experience that they have on that landing page is in alignment with the device that they're using. And you often want to be testing. So definitely big fans of A/B testing, and know which page actually has higher conversion rates taking place. The last thing here to cover with regards to best practices is definitely testing. We talked about, you want to build a strategy that has a very specific purpose at the start, but you're also going to be flexible and allow to continue to make adjustments and improve your ads because of the testing that you're doing. You want to make sure that you have a consistent rotation with your ads. Your messaging can quickly get stale. I definitely see some people that continue to push the same ad messaging over and over and over again. You're not going to generate new results. You need to rotate the ads that are coming in. One of my favorite examples with that is, and now it's left my head, the insurance company, Geico. You know, think of the diversity in their ads. They have the caveman, they've got the gecko, they've had, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 other things, but they're diversifying the messaging, the content to continue to keep you engaged with what's happening there. You definitely want to continue to keep measurements and testing the results and seeing what's performing and what's not performing. Keep looking at your analytics. Start with a larger list of keywords, and as you continue to review the data points, you continue to optimize and refine that keyword list. With that, as you're also refining and scaling down, you're also identifying some new opportunities for words that are out there, which allow you to create some new ads. And this is based on other searchers' behaviors. Something that's really important too is to keep tabs as you continue to observe your activity on the words that are not performing, or some sort of misconstrued words or things that don't necessarily align with your specific business or goal and objective. So those would be considered negative words. And what that means is if you say, this is a negative word, you're telling Google, do not display my ad when someone types this in. So if, let's see, I don't have an example off the top of my head with that. But if you, like, for example, we've got a client that they do mascots. So if someone, they build custom mascots, excuse me, but if someone typed in, you know, the Brewers mascot, just because they want to learn more about it, they don't want to show up for that. They only want to show up if someone's going to actually have an interest in buying a new custom mascot. And definitely be willing to set a large net at the start. So again, you start broad and you continue to test and refine, and you get super laser focused, and that allows you to invest more dollars and increase the overall conversions that you're getting at the end of the day.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot of content there. We would love to continue the conversation and clarify anything if possible. But in summary, we discussed what is paid advertising, you know, why is paid advertising important for your business and important for your marketing strategy. And then lastly, just some best practices that are surrounded around paid advertising.
Excuse me, as always, an offer for you. We do offer a free website audit. You get to spend an awesome 30 minutes with Will on a one-to-one. This is a custom audit created just for you. So in the chat, feel free to throw your email address and a link to your website, and Will reach out to you and schedule that one-on-one opportunity. In addition, we hope that you join us for upcoming webinars. Next week, I'm very excited. We have 4 agency owners from across the country. They're going to share their best secrets around helping you to continue to market during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. And then the following week, we're going to dive into web design best practices. You can always find our past webinars and sign up for the future ones simply by going to keystoneclick.com/webinars. That being said, let us open it up for questions.